Hey everyone, it is your girl Nicole Latrice back again. After the last video, I had said that there were going to be 2 recipes that I was doing. And we were going to kind of bake and have a conversation along the way. So the first one I did was the red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting. My red velvet is to die for. I'm not going to get on that tangent again. So here we are at the second video, and I said that the second recipe that I was going to make was the Hennessy butter pecan. Oh, I forgot the main ingredient. Hold on. So apparently, I have a Henny thief because this bottle used to be like up to here. Who's been drinking my Hennessy? I don't drink it, but I use it to bake, so that should tell you that it does not take that long for me. It takes that long, for me to be able to actually go through a whole liter of Hennessy. But anyways, I'm starting my video off like I do every time and wash my hands for safety. Food safety is very important. And we have to make sure that we're using soap and water, and you get it going, and you make sure that your hands are nice and sudsy and rinse it off, because you need to get all that dirt and grime and stuff off. Paper towel. Let's get everything dry, and let's get cracking. Clean hands. Even though I got clean hands, I'm still making this for someone else. Food safety dictates that your girl got to glove up, which is okay. These are all brand new gloves, which are kind of getting on my nerves because it takes a minute for me to be able to. There we go. There we go. Actually be able to put them on. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. I don't need anybody trying to sue me for food poisoning. Because this baking is not only just a hobby of mine, I do it as a living as well. I have my own baking business, which has been in business pretty much since 2011, called Cake Doubles. Cake Doubles, the premonition or the design behind it is I grew up baking in my grandmother's kitchen. R.I.P. to her, miss her every day. But that love of baking, it started at such a young age that it actually grew into hey, I love to bake. I love to have people around. When people come over, I'ma bake. People started tasting it. They started liking it. They're like, oh, well, how much do you charge for a birthday cake? And can you do this for my kid? And can you do this? Oh, well, okay. I might actually need to turn this into a business. So I did it off and on, starting in 2011. And since then, it's been more on and on and on and on and on. And the evolutionary process of what I do in Cake Doubles is designed for 2 purposes. To provide you with the desserts that your grandmother used to make. Yes, I'm very old school. Took it all the way back. The desserts that your grandmother used to make, but just into a more repurposed, updated, not thought of form. It started out with just cupcakes. It has since evolved into cake in a jar. I do alcohol infused cupcakes, hence the Hennessy for the Hennessy butter pecan that we're going to make right now. And then I also do other creations and designs that I'm really not at liberty to say right now, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so today we're going to do the Hennessy butter pecan. For me, when it comes to my cupcakes, I only use one type of liner, and that is this rose gold foil liner. And I did that for a reason, because I used to hate when I was first starting out, the paper liners would actually, the grease and the oil, because I use canola oil in all of my cupcake recipes, cupcake and cake recipes instead of butter. I started to notice that the oil would really seep through the liners. And once I'm giving it to a client or a kid or something like that, sometimes the liners would start to fall apart and it would just be a mess. So as Cake Doubles was evolving and I came up with my color scheme, I felt like this copper or rose gold color was the perfect, I just instantly fell in love with it. And so that's what I use in all of my cupcake presentations, unless there is a specific theme that my client wants to go with. So I have those in a pan, as you can see, set to the side. And the reason I am talking about like how in-depth like cupcake liners and my decisions on the ones that I selected and all that is because that's actually what we're going to be talking about as I'm baking. Strategic decision making and how it has influenced and impacted my life, not just in business, but also in my regular personal life as well. I have my recipe behind me on my tablet, so if you see me doing like this a lot, that's what I'm reaching for. But strategic decision making, for me, it was very important. It started out, with a level of importance mostly in business, because they teach you once you're starting out in business that everything matters. You want colors that are going to be eye-grabbing. Your layout needs to, hold their attention, all these various things. So it's just like, okay. And then in life, like 10 years of my life, there was a lot of strategic decision making. Like, it was me at the head of like my household in certain areas, if you will, like, developing routines, getting Layla together, like all that stuff. So it's just like, I have that in me. And in being a business owner, you have to make strategic decisions as well. Like every client, every potential customer, they're not always going to be the best one for your business. And sometimes you have to be able to look at it and see, is this going to bring value into the mission that it is that I'm trying to promote in my business? If it's not, don't do it. Is this client going to be a headache? Is what their needs are or where they are in those needs, is that going to bring me more headache than, challenges? Because I like to be challenged in business. I like to be challenged in life. But it's just like, there's levels to it. Like, I think I'm cool being like pushed into elevating my mindset, my practices, all that stuff. But when what you need like makes me do something completely different than what my business is designed for, or the level of service that my business is designed to provide for you, I got a whole problem with that. It's just like, all right, now that's doing a little too much. That's doing more than what it is that I want to. But again, it takes strategic decision making to actually get to that point. So in business, I have it down. Now where I'm coming up to in my age, being 38, where I am in my current relationship status of like, resetting, being single, going through a divorce, still raising a child from like 589 miles away. Like, before there was any of that I just said, there was a moment, there was a period where I had to figure out what was best for me. Because where I was coming from prior to this transition, everything was it was so out of whack. It was not working. It wasn't quite, what I thought, what I expected, any of that. So it was just like, oh, okay, like, I'm at a point where I really need to figure out what is it that I want? Who is the person that it is that I'm trying to be? What do I want out of life? Where am I trying to go? What is it that I want to have? Who do I want to have? Who do I want to be with? What do I want my child's life to look like as a direct result of me and the decisions that I'm making, how I'm feeling, what I'm promoting in and for myself? Like, all of that kind of came to a head. And it was just like, okay, all right, life. I see what it is that you're doing. I see what it is that I'm about to embark on. So I really had to get real with myself. I had to sit to myself and within myself to say, we got some hard decisions coming up. We have some decisions where it's just like one thing can open up, one thing can change so many things. So in November, you'll still hear me talking, but if I need to step off camera, it's because I either have to get like a baking pan or a cooling rack or something out of my pantry to make these cupcakes that I'm working on. In 2019, I was faced with a series of changes. It's just like I want to be like forthcoming. I want to be open about things from my perspective. But I'm having a challenge because a conversation was brought to my attention. And while I understand and appreciate the validity in the conversation, it's like now it's gotten me to a point to where it's just like I don't know necessarily how to have certain conversations in this space, because I'm telling my stuff without trying to include other people at the same time. I don't know. But in 2019, prior to that, my then relationship was not going well. We weren't seeing eye to eye. It's like we were talking two different languages. I didn't understand. I wasn't being understood. And it was just like we were at a point of like a lot of contention. And, you know, you try everything that you can. And in trying everything that you can, sometimes you're just left with the fact that maybe this is it. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe this is the most that I'm able to work up to. And if I've done that and I'm actually giving like more than what I thought I ever could, more than what I thought I ever knew that I had to, then anything that comes like after that point for me, I feel like I'm okay with it, because I know whatever happens, I did everything that I could. And sometimes that's life. Sometimes you will get to a point to where it's like you'll have to try several things. And if in trying those things, it just still doesn't work, if the plan doesn't come out, you know, how it's supposed to, if you're turned more upside down than you were before, then it's just like the song says, you gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them. So in 2019, under the, you know, kind of shared insight from one of my friends, and I've talked about this before, I made a strategic decision to say something is amiss. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to come back from it. I don't know how to fix it. I need help. And, you know, try the help in people. Shut the front door. Jesus. I'm gonna make this. That's what happens when you realize you've just made a mistake. When you meant to half a recipe and you half the first ingredient, but then you put in the full amount of the rest of the ingredients. So I'm just gonna make the whole recipe. If you need any Hennessy butter pecan cupcakes, let me know. I got plenty of batter that's gonna be left over. But I made a strategic decision to understand and to realize that whatever was going on was beyond solely just me. And whatever was going on, I couldn't deal with on my own. I needed assistance. And the person who could really give me that assistance was the Lord. So, under the advisement of one of my really good girlfriends, she told me about a prayer that she's made when she's been faced with the very same, like, crossroads, if you will, the crossroads of having to make a decision. And the prayer is a very simple one. There is no, no extra. It's just very straightforward. And when I prayed it, my focus and my intention behind it was really on like one path. It was very narrow-minded. What I was praying and focusing on at that time was solely my relationship. Because at that time I was in marriage. It's just like, that's the ultimate. When I prayed that prayer with the intention of like somehow this is going to do something in my marriage, in my relationship. It has to. I wasn't looking for it to fix it, like for us to, continue to be together. Like I wasn't looking at one way or another. I had just grown to a point to where it was like, stop dead in my tracks, Lord, this is bigger than me. Whatever happens, I'm giving it to you. And that's what I did. So, starting in November 2019, I started to see everything change. And then, what was it? So, November 2019, I made that prayer. February 2020, I had arrived at the point of like full understanding. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. My bad. My apologies. That was a call that I had to take. I could not miss it. What did I just do with that? So what I was saying was, so in 2019, I said the prayer. I made the, decision that I needed to make a decision. February of 2020, I made my decision. I stood firm in what was needed for me and what I needed moving forward, and holding myself to breaking the cycle. Because it's just like there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of, things would get better and then they wouldn't, and just that continuous cycle. And at that point, honestly, I had enough. That's not like the type of life that I wanted to live. That's not how I felt, things should be at that point, given the fact of where we had grown to, everything that we had built, and what it was, I thought that we were doing. Then in July of 2020, the separation began, 2 separate households. And in that process, or should I say during that time, there were always decisions, if you will, coming about and being made. The decisions that were the decisions that were being made, ultimately, they were for me, but they were made with a conscious mindset of Coltrane. Give me 1 second. Hey! No. Sorry about that. The decisions that were being made. Go. It's just crazy. The decisions that were being made ultimately were in my best interest. They were designed for me. But I also had to understand that there were other people that were going to be affected by the decision that I made. So once the separation had happened, then I began to look at, like, where do I go from here? I started looking at, like, you know, where I am in my career, being able to support myself, being able to support my child, housing options and opportunities, and just, you know, everything was coming into focus or coming into thought all at the same time. It became overwhelming. But I knew I had to do it because I was on limited decision-making time, if you will. So, in me being open to the process and to, you know, everything that was next, even not knowing what was next. Other things, other opportunities that I never considered before were actually starting to come into view. I'm checking another cake, the other cake that I made. Ooh-wee, see? When your toothpick come out clean, that's when you know your cake is ready. Just 1 second. Red is not what I liked it, but we'll see what it looks like when I take the top crust off. I knew that I had to stay open to the process to see what was coming. And I started understanding that I had a specific track of, like, what I wanted to focus on, what, you know, was finna happen, where I wanted this stuff to go. So much so to where, like, you know, when it came to housing and stuff like that, it was just like, oh, okay, well, I'll just find a house in Houston. Started looking at houses in Houston. I found ones that I would be okay with, but not necessarily anyone that, like, gripped me. It was just like, oh my God, yes, that's the house. Like, I gotta do whatever I gotta do to be able to get into that house. Like, none of them did that for me. And then, you know, there was an option to stay in the house that I'm in, or that I was in Houston, and, you know, possibly work towards buying that one. And, you know, I didn't want to, like, uproot my child. So that's why, like, Houston, just staying in Houston. I had been there for 18 years. I built up a life. I built up, you know, the ability to be able to do so many things in Houston that it was just like, it just made sense. So all conversations were like, Houston, Houston, Houston. And then the Lord sprinkled in a little bit of Tulsa. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why is Tulsa coming into consideration? Like, when I left in 2002 from high school to go to college in Houston, I was like, I'm never going back. And so as things continue to progress in this strategic decision making for what's to come next in my life, it continued to transition more. And it was mostly Houston with a sprinkle of Tulsa. Then it became a little less of Houston, a little more of Tulsa. Then it went from no Houston to all Tulsa. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, how on earth is this going to happen? How on earth is this going to work? Because, like, everything I know, or everything that I had built up until this point, is in Houston. My company that I work for is in Houston. This business that I've been working to build It's in Houston. Yes, it's anytime. My life, my daughter, like everything was Houston. So when Tulsa was put on my heart, it was just like, oh man, like this is a whole new level of acceptance that I'm going to have to work on. It's a whole new level of acceptance that I'm going to have to work on. One, so much that it's going to take a lot. It's going to take relocating. It's going to take making sure that everything was good with my job to transition. Figuring out the situation with my child and her dad, and it was just, if I'm being honest, it was just totally way more than what I bargained for. Like what I never thought about having to take into consideration. But before, I completely decided to rule it out or, just make a decision against it, other things were brought into view. Things that literally I know only the Lord could provide. Only the Lord could confirm. Things that would make my transition, this life-altering transition that I'm about to make, and I'm talking about in this video, possible. That would even, kind of almost make me consider it. So, in my saying yes to remaining open, because at this point, I still hadn't fully said yes to Tulsa. But in my commitment to the process and to stay open, the Lord provided so many things that would make it possible, that would make it less difficult, and in a way, less hurtful. Because, for your marriage to end, or should I say for my marriage to end, I never considered that. Now, if I'm being all the way honest, I can say that I never really had, like, just a full picture or a full idea of what I thought, like, my marriage was. I've heard stories about other people's marriage. I've seen, certain situations that transpire in other people's marriage. But I don't think prior to my own, I don't think I was ever in a position where I considered myself for marriage. I don't think I ever considered, like, the people that I was interacting with. Like, I really, like them. Some of them, I love them. But when you talk about, like, marriage, it was just something I had never gotten really to that point. So when it happened, I still went through it, like, even kind of with that mindset, but a little bit different, because it was like, okay, now that I'm in it, like, I really got to figure out how this is going to work for us, if that makes sense. Like, how are we going to be able to join our two separate lives into one life and, make it work? So when being like that, like, never having really contemplated marriage prior to being married, or what I wanted marriage to look like prior to being married, like, I think that, like, now I'm having this conversation with you all, I think that is the one thing that put me in a position, like I said earlier, to give more than what I thought I didn't have or know that I had when things began to go wrong. And that's very amazing, you know, to be able to have that revelation here and now in front of you all while I'm, you know, scooping this cupcake batter into these pans. So in all of that, like, what came about when I made the decision to stay open, even, like I said, when I made that prayer in 2019, that prayer in 2019 that I prayed was specifically talking about my relationship, but it unlocked so many other things that I never even put into the consideration of, like, hey, like, can these things be a part of my life? Can these people, you know, be more instrumental in my life? Because I thought that they already were. But apparently, with that prayer said, okay, if you're going to be open, and if you really want this clarity, because that's ultimately what the prayer was about, then here's what's going to come about. So as far as me moving, the things that were provided to me, and like I said, it's only the Lord, literally, who could provide that. Once I was open to Tulsa, I was on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, there was an advertisement or advertisement, depending on what part of the country you're watching this in. But there was an advertisement for Tulsa Remote. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, I'm interested in Tulsa. Like, let me see what this is about. Maybe it has some information, you know, that'll kind of give me some insight. So it was a relocation program, which I had never heard about, but it was a relocation program for people to relocate to Tulsa to help boost the economy, you know, to bring about an expansion of what they're doing, like in technology, oil and gas, like all of that. So it's like, hey, that's pretty cool. It's like, what does it require to apply? Looked at all that. It was pretty simple and pretty straightforward. I was like, okay. I'm going to submit this. And I'm going to see what happens. Submitted my application and got approved for the program. The relocation program is designed to where they offer you assistance. And it's not free assistance. It is, but you got to like pay the taxes on it. But they offer you assistance to be able to come to get set up. You do have to have your own job. But it's like to be able to help you with your cost of living, secure an apartment, whatever the case may be, right? So I was like, okay, that's cool. And I can pick this start date, which was like the closest one to the end of the year. Because that's when if I said I was going to move, that's when I was going to move. It's like, all right, cool. Now that I got that, and I know like when I'm going to have my first disbursement, my first available funds, all right, well, shoot, it really does look like Tulsa is the ticket. So next is, where am I going to live? I have people in Tulsa, but it's like at the same time, like, I'm a 37-year-old woman who knows what it's like to live on her own, to be in a house. What am I gonna do? I ended up, and it's the apartment that you see me in now, and it's actually the apartment complex that I actually work at now as the assistant property manager. But I was like, all right, like, let me put it out there. Because with it being just me, I didn't necessarily feel like for the initial move that I needed to immediately get in a house. Because when I do a house, I want it to be like I said, for the what went wrong with the Houston search, I want it to be something that and y'all gonna have to walk with me because I need to sit down while I'm waiting on these cupcakes. I wanted it to be something that I like, really liked, really wanted, and something that I could honestly see as a betterment for, me and my child. Because that's what I live for. Right now, it's just me and her. Right now, it's just me, but in my decisions still have to reflect, her and mine. So, it's like, okay, like, let me put out some fillers to some apartments and see, what's going on. So, some of them, even though the cost of living is lower in Tulsa compared to Houston, some of them still, are rather pricey. So it's just like, okay. So I reached out to my apartments that I'm in now. And I was like, hey, this is the situation. I'm living in Houston, but I'm relocating to Tulsa. I won't be able to come see the apartment prior to moving there. Is there any way that someone can send me some pictures or anything? And the previous assistant property manager, she was a very nice lady. And she was like, yes, I can send you some pictures, but keep in mind, the apartment that you have is this category, and the only one I have available to take pictures in is is one of our classic models, like one of the standard ones. And I'm like, okay, I'm not tripping on appliances, none of that stuff. I just want to see the layout just to make sure the furniture pieces that I'm bringing with me, that they'll fit, that it's enough space for my daughter. So when she comes visit, she has her own space, those types of things. So they did, and they sent me a video, which was above and beyond. So I was like, all right, cool. Everything looks good. I'm just going to rock with this one. So I paid all my deposit, all that stuff. Everything was set up. And I get here and I'm like, I love my apartment. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And I get a really good rate on it. This is what's up. And how I figured it out, that it was going to be a good option for me was because with the monthly disbursement that I was getting from the relocation program, it paid at least half of my rent. Matter of fact, it paid over half of my rent. So it's just all right, this is Gucci. I got that taken care of. I ended up talking to my manager at that time, and I expressed to her what was going on. She was aware, that I was about to go through a divorce and stuff like that, and she knew and understood that I had, kind of needed to do stuff for myself. At that time, we were working remotely. So she was like, yeah, I have no problem with, the fact that you have to do this and you're remaining employed with the company, but just understand that if they ever, put out the call to say, hey, you guys need to come back into the office, that, we wouldn't be able to facilitate that. And I'm like, okay, we're going into it with the same understanding. If that happens, it'll be no ill feelings. It did happen, but anyways, so it's all right, cool. I have a place to stay, my apartments. Over half of my rent is paid due to the relocation program. I get to keep my job where I'm making, I think I was making $22 an hour at that time, or 24, something. I think it was 22. Still making decent money. And on top of that, now I'm going to be in a position to save money because I don't have to use all of my money towards rent and expenses. Lord, thank you. The side of town that I live on is one that I've never been on, prior to moving here. And, I had heard mixed reviews about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to see what this is like. But I'm very appreciative of it because it is super quiet where I stay. It's on a main through road, but it's not one of the busiest ones. I am towards the southeastern, a little bit part of the complex. So it's not a whole lot of traffic that comes through. And then I hope I'm just gonna have to turn it around. But also, if you look, that view is one that I wake up to every single day. And the sunrises and sunsets, like I'll put a picture in this video so you can see it. They are gorgeous, like so much so to where I'm like, I may actually need to consider building my house out on this side of town so I can have that. But it's just like all of that to say, like, the Lord has continued to support my decision and to provide, even in the moments where I didn't think that I was going to be able to have. Because 2021, I had a whole surgery. I was out of work for 12 weeks. Yeah, I had short-term disability, but short-term disability, like, you feel the cut in your pay, even though you miss that other 40%, because that other 40% is like more bills, unfortunately, but it gives you that peace of mind to where you don't have to struggle about making ends meet. And I'm talking about all that was going on and still being able to stay employed with the company, being able to have the benefits of short-term disability, like all of that was provided for me. And it has not stopped. Like, it's continuing. And I really want, this video to be able to serve also as a testament, because, like, I've had Cake Doubles, my baking business. I've had this business going pretty much since 2011. Like I said in the Red Velvet video, it's been going off and on. But I've really, for the past couple of years, transitioned myself and my mentality with it to be something that is constantly on. I've had opportunities over, like, the holidays, especially, to get booked and busy. I've had people here lately think of me to help facilitate baking needs that they haven't been able to find at local bakeries out here. And the creations that I've actually made, they've loved it. They're like, oh my God, how did she do this? How was she able to provide this? And they're ever grateful, so much so to where they're like, can you give me her business card? We need to call her for other things. And that's amazing. And it's not to say that this cannot happen in Houston. It's just, Tulsa is home. Tulsa people know me. Tulsa people are really interested in what it is that you do and trying to help you to be able to take that to the next level. Now I have orders for, potential birthday cakes with actual designs and themes. My own daughter's birthday is coming up, and it's just like, she's amazing in her creativity of the things that she wants at first. So I've made her a unicorn cake before. It's like a 6-layer cake. The layers weren't that big, but it was still a 6-layer cake. It had I cut holes in the middle of each layer of cake, poured a whole bunch of candy down the middle, frosted it up, decorated it like a unicorn, and when we cut into it, all the candy, just spills out, and she remembers that. And so she likes my strawberry crunch cake that I make as well. So my daughter, the daughter that she is, she actually was like, Mommy, I want a unicorn strawberry crunch cake. And she told me this, like, maybe I think November, because I think it was around Thanksgiving. So her birthday is coming up next month, and I double checked with her to say, again, this is strategic decision making, because I need to make sure what it is I'm going to be baking for her. I was like, hey, remember, do you still want your your unicorn strawberry crunch cake? She was like, I didn't say that. Now I know I'm not crazy. I take note of these things. I was like, all right, what did you say you want? She said, I want a strawberry crunch candy cake. So she doesn't want the unicorn theme. She just wants the candy. And I'm like, okay, I got you. So now I have to go into the original decision-making plan that I made, to be able to execute the unicorn cake and just modify it just a little bit. But strategic decision-making, while I was forced kind of into it, I'm still appreciative of like how it truly has impacted my life, how it truly has allowed me to grow. And that's like not just growth in my external world, but seriously growth within my internal world. Like I used to feel like if I felt a certain way or if I wanted a certain thing to happen, especially as it pertains to other people, if that didn't happen, then it's like, oh no, my world is like, it's ended. Or if I needed to make a strategic decision that involved someone no longer being in my world, then it's just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't imagine, not necessarily life without this person, but this person has been an integral part in my life up until this point. What is life going to look like now? And I'm, if I'm being all the way honest to, hey, y'all look, what time is it? 4:20. Haha. I don't know why I put that up there, but actually I do. It's a different story. But the same thing occurred when it came to like this decision, with my ex-husband and stuff like that. It's just like 10 years is a long time to spend with any one person, especially if it's a romantic situation. And then when that changes, it's just like, what happened? How did I become so dependent? Whereas in the beginning I was independent, then I was interdependent, and then I became solely dependent. And now that I'm no longer in a position to be dependent, I now have to go back to the drawing board and make a strategic decision of what do I need my independence now in this moment, in this space to look like. Strategic decision making is not something, one, to take lightly, because it does have the power to significantly alter the trajectory or the course that your life is going to take. It is not something to enter into haphazardly, because just like I said, the decisions that you make can significantly change the way the rest of your life looks like. The decisions that you try to avoid or the decisions that you just let happen can do the same thing. Please take heed from me. I share, my life insight and my knowledge that I wish. It's like it's like hindsight is 20/20. If I knew then what I know now, would I still make the same decision? For some people, not knowing what those decisions look like, or that there's a possibility that they could be faced with those decisions, it's crazy to me, but it's also because it's just not out there, like for informational purposes, like I feel like it should be. And then strategic decision making should be a practice that is honed. It's like a muscle. It should be worked out every day, because you'll never have to stop making decisions all the way up until, I believe, the time you're called home. Because even like, I feel like the Lord has the ability to call you home, but He will ask, are you ready? And sometimes that's going to be a hard decision, and then sometimes He'll make the decision for you, because it's just like, what are you holding on to? But if you are strategic in the things that you do, strategy is rooted in intention. Set the intention that it is that you want for your life. Set the expectations that you will hold yourself to come hell or high water. Set the standards that you'll hold not only yourself but everyone to. All of that factors into the practice of strategic decision making. And I guarantee you, when you do, not only will your life be better, The lives of the people who surround you will be better and will improve. The lives of the people that come after you will still continue to improve from the impact in the decision that you made. Try it. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know if it works for you, if it doesn't work for you. Let me know if you need some help trying to come up with ways to make strategic decisions or to improve your practice of strategic decisions. I'm here for it all. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Share your thoughts, share your insights. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if you're rocking with me. Let me know even if there's any subject that you want me to touch on based on my experiences, or if I need to go out and do some research to see what other people's experiences are with it to be able to talk about it. These cupcakes, I was like, was I making cupcakes or a cake? The cupcakes are just about done. As you can see in the oven, I only made a half dozen because, like I said, I don't like waste, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap these up. I will put up a picture at the end of this video so you can see what they're like, all decorated in their glory with the pipettes, with the Hennessy in it. And if you want some, hey, feel free to get in touch with me. You can drop a comment below and we'll get connected and I can see about getting you an order of your own. But I hope each and every one of you really enjoy your day. Life is just beginning. What are you gonna do with the rest of it? I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of mine, but I know I'm going to make it great. Until next video, I love y'all. Y'all have a good one.